Hi everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog. And I got a question from a viewer, which I thought would be a really good question to answer here on the vlog. The question was, what is my process for taking on custom commission work? And I answered the person privately, but then I thought, that would be a great one to answer on the vlog. Not only talk about my process as an artist, but in general, what you can do as an audience member if there is an artist whose work that you've connected with and you really want to talk to them about some custom work, but maybe you're feeling like you don't know how to approach them about that, or kind of how that process might work. So I thought I would answer that for you guys because it seems obvious to me as an artist who takes on custom jobs, but I know for people who aren't artists, the whole process might be a little mysterious or feel a little intimidating, or hopefully you don't want to be rude when you're approaching someone about doing custom work for you. So this is kind of my tips and tricks for approaching an artist about doing custom work. And then also I thought at the end of the video, I would show you guys the current custom piece that I'm working on right now, which is actually that jacket right behind me, which doesn't have anything on it yet, but I have just gotten to the point where I'm kind of getting ready to make all the pieces and put them on the jacket. So it's kind of a perfect time to show you how I engage with my client about the custom process and kind of how I do my thing. But first, let's talk about art and the internet. We live in an incredible time for art. The internet has made it so that audience members can connect directly with artists, and artists can show their work directly to audiences without any kind of middleman, which is absolutely the coolest thing ever. Through the entirety of human history, basically up until now, if you wanted to make a living as an artist, you had to have some kind of middleman or gatekeeper or somebody who was kind of in charge of whether or not you could be a successful artist, whether that was the church back in the day, or wealthy arts patrons, or for a more 20th century mode, the world of galleries and museums and art agents, art magazines, being in major art exhibitions. That was kind of the only way to be known or have your work be seen out in the world. There's just this entire apparatus of how to deliver art to the masses. And if you as an artist weren't plugged into that apparatus, good luck selling your work. Good luck finding your audience members or reaching them. And also for artists right now, you can get access to inspiration and materials that were so hard to find before the internet. So thanks to the internet, we as artists can connect directly with our audience with no middleman, no gatekeeper, which is so cool. It means that anybody that has an Instagram account can put their art out there and hopefully connect to an audience and possibly sell their art to that audience, which is, it's just the coolest thing in the world. And it's made it so that so many more artists can actually make a living making art instead of having to have a day job to pay their bills and then, work on art until the middle of the night because you had to work all day at your day job. So bravo, internet. There's a lot of things I don't like about the internet, but this is one of the big positives as far as I'm concerned. So how cool is that you can have direct access? Well, sort of. If the person is a super famous or celebrity status, doesn't engage with people online, stuff like that, they might be a little bit harder to access. But in terms of being able to see art that speaks to you personally and then possibly have a conversation with that artist, it is so much more possible right now than it has ever been in human history, which is completely awesome, both for artists and for people who want to view art. All of us, we all win, yay. So that's really cool. So the first step to commissioning custom art is, of course, finding an artist whose work speaks to you. And that might seem totally obvious, but a lot of people who try to commission custom work will find an artist who, they like their work well enough, but maybe that artist's exact style is not what that customer or client is going for. And so they'll approach the commission in kind of an awkward way where they're asking an artist to work outside of their own style. Sometimes a customer will ask an artist to copy someone else's work, and sometimes it's just a matter of they want them to tweak their style into something else. I would recommend not ever doing that. I view getting a custom piece of art from an artist kind of the same as going to a really fancy restaurant and ordering a, expensive steak. And the server says to you, well, how do you want that cooked? Well, my answer is chef's choice. The chef knows how this should be cooked better than I do. And I want to experience their presentation of it as an artist. The chef is a food artist, right? Because again, they're an expert. They've been doing this for years. They know what the deal is. So that's my deal when I go out to eat places. Back when we could go out to eat places, remember that? But it's also my deal with hiring artists. So I would never ask an artist to work outside of their own style unless I was trying to challenge them, but that's a different deal entirely. And my deal is I look for artists whose work totally thrills me, totally makes me excited. It, strikes a chord, vibrates a little string inside of my heart and makes me go, ooh, wow, yeah, I love that person's work. And then I go to them and I hire them to do a custom piece. And I will say to them maybe an idea of what the custom piece is. I've really always wanted a Little Red Riding Hood drawing, or, maybe it's a portrait of your dog or something, right? Like there's a concept or an idea to start out with, but then I just go artist choice. I let the person go wild with it. And this includes with tattoos. This is probably the most common form of custom commissioned artwork that people get these days. If you are getting a custom piece from a tattoo artist, that is, they are making the drawing for you, it's not flash that came off the wall. Congratulations, you're commissioning a custom piece of artwork. And that tattoo is always going to come out better if you, again, pick a tattoo artist whose style you like and who you want them to work in their style, not copy someone else's style or do something that's not their natural way of doing it. And there's so many artists out there. If there's an artist whose style is kind of right, but maybe not for you, you can probably find a different artist whose style is exactly right for you. So that's my first hint, is find the right artist. Don't try to shoehorn someone who might not be the right artist for you into a project that might not be the right project for them, because I think everyone comes out a little bit disappointed in that scenario. And who wants to be disappointed with an awesome piece of art that you just paid for? Not me. The second piece of advice that I have, besides find an artist whose work speaks to you, is be direct but polite with the ask. This is where it gets a little awkward. If a person has a website with stuff that's just for sale, you can obviously go on their website, take a look, go, wow, I really like that piece, and it's got this price tag on it, so I understand exactly how much it costs. I'm going to buy it. That's easier than the custom commission process because there is a back and forth and some trust has to go on and some possibly awkward conversations about pricing, but it doesn't have to be awkward. Again, all you have to be is direct, but also polite about what it is that you are looking for and what your expectations are. So reach out to that artist, send them a DM if you're connecting with them on Instagram or Twitter or something, or, maybe their bio says, yes, I do commissions, please email me. Whew, send them an email, right? And reach out and just say, hey, your work really appeals to me a lot, and I'm wondering if you are open for custom commissions. Odds are the person is going to say yes. If the artist is too busy, if they are already successful enough doing their thing and they don't want to do custom work, they might say no. that's okay. Not everybody has to say yes to everything. You'll never know unless you ask, though, right? And if the person says no to you, don't take it personally. It just means that they're busy or they've got, other projects and things that are taking up their time and focus, which is they're busy. And it's not going to be something personal about you. I'm hoping, unless you've got some beef with an artist, but you're also trying to get a custom commission from them. But again, that would be a weird scenario that I can't exactly picture happening. So now you've connected with the artist and you've asked if they're available for commissions and they've said yes. Awesome. The next step is, what do you want? And the big question, how much is that going to cost you? So there's a little bit of back and forth that goes on there. Again, if you're going in for something pretty simple, you want to hire someone who does pet portraits, you love their style, you want a pet portrait, here's a picture of your dog. You send that to them and you say, hey, how much would a pet portrait be? And they'll answer you. Maybe it's a little more amorphous at this point and you don't know exactly what you want, but you know that person's style appeals to you. So you have a back and forth conversation about what's possible. That's what happens for me. A lot of people contact me about getting custom denim jackets made. And it's a great back and forth conversation because I get to say, well, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something that's just a total stunner to wear to like a wedding or some crazy event? Are you looking for something for the day to day? What is your style? What are you going for? So there's a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of conversation there. And it usually ends with everybody having a pretty good idea about what the scope of the project is and what the budget for the project is. Now, you might get a firm price from an artist and you might get a range from an artist depending, again, on what their guess about how much time the project might take for them, but also keeping open to the idea that things can change as you're working on them. So sometimes with my clients, I like to set a range where I say, this is going to be minimum this price, but depending on how crazy we get with design elements, it gets a little more expensive, but I'll make sure we keep it under this top price over here on the other end. And this, again, can become kind of an awkward conversation because when you go in, especially with custom work, you might not have any idea of what this person is going to be charging for their work. So you can come in and say, hey, I'm interested in a pet portrait. And maybe that artist says, great, I do hand-done pet portraits for $100. And you're like, wow, that's a great price for a custom piece of artwork. No argument from me. I'm absolutely going to pay that price. I love it. Great. You just made a deal. You're on the way to the next step of the project. Maybe you go to the pet portraitist and they say it's $500 for a pet portrait. And you go, ooh, okay, I don't have that much money for a pet portrait. What's the next step? Well, I'll tell you what the next step isn't. The next step is not telling them their prices are too high and trying to haggle with them. Ooh, I've had that happen before. It is such a bad look. Just don't go there. The artist knows how much their time is worth. They know how much their work is worth. They know how much the materials cost. They know how much time went into their training as an artist. And they know what all the intangible costs are that you're probably not thinking of as a customer, which include things like rent on their studio space, paying for their website and merchant fees and things like that. So there's a lot of hidden costs that go into making an awesome piece of artwork. And a lot of the time the audience doesn't necessarily think about that. So what do you do if someone says a price that's too high for you? Don't ghost on them. I've also had that happen where someone's asked me about doing, this is what usually happens when people ask me about getting custom quilts made. I say, hey, I'd love to talk to you about a custom quilt, but I'm just going to be upfront and tell you that my minimum price for a quilt is $1,000. And that's just related to how long it takes me to make a quilt. It's a very slow process. And sometimes when I say that, people just kind of disappear and don't reply to the message chain or the email. And I understand why they don't reply, but it's still rude. So what to do if it's out of your price range is you reply and say, oh, wow, my thinking about the price range for this project was not in line with what you're charging. So thanks for your time, but I'm not going to be able to do this. That's it. That's all you have to say. You can phrase it in a bunch of different ways. My budget isn't that high. I grossly underestimated what you're charging for your work when I asked you. There's a lot of different ways you can say it. But again, don't argue with the person about what their pricing is, and don't just end the conversation right there where they said the price and then you never come back. It's so weird feeling for the artist. If you have something to offer the artist that is actually valuable, you might consider asking them if they would be interested in a partial trade. I would never ask them for a full trade, but again, maybe you're a car mechanic and that artist might need some help with their van. And you could offer to do like trade for half or something. Just keep it polite and don't expect them to say yes. Let them be in charge of their own economic situation, right? And again, it doesn't have to be awkward. It can feel a little awkward when we're having these conversations around money because we've been so trained to like never ask about money. But it's important to be transparent about that stuff. And again, honest, direct, but polite. That's all it takes there. Now, if you pass the pricing part of the conversation, you're golden. You're ready to move into the next phase, which is either stand aside and let that artist do what they do best, or work with them with a back and forth on what it is that you want, which elements are super important to you, which elements maybe aren't as important, and go back and forth on that conversation with them. And you will most likely develop a great idea for what this piece is going to be. And hopefully the artist then can get to work on whatever it is that they're doing for you, and then show you some progress shots as they're working on it, is usually what I do. And then deliver you an awesome custom piece of artwork that is like nothing else that exists because it is unique. You commissioned it and nobody else has one of these things. You did it. It's a great, awesome, satisfying feeling both for the customer and for the artist. And it is so, so, so much fun to do a custom piece for somebody. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. You may have noticed I don't do a lot of like off the rack, ready to go stuff, because my favorite thing to do is to really make a connection with somebody, talk to them about what it is that they want, and then make that thing to come to life for them. So that said, I want to show you guys the project I'm working on right now, which again is that jacket that's hanging behind me, but the pieces of it are all over the table in front of me. So I am going to cut this video and turn up with another one in just a second. All right, so here it is. What I've done here is this brown piece of paper on the very bottom is actually an outline of the back panel of the jacket so that I don't have to have the jacket down on my table while I'm working. And in the middle here, I have the big custom patch and top rocker that I pulled off of that other vest that I was working on before. I think I showed you guys in a previous video. And then I have been working to surround this central witch bitch patch with a bunch of icons of sort of witchy stuff as requested by my client. I first showed her this page with just some sketches of some ideas of items that we could use to surround that central skull candle. And then once I had her approval on some of them, I went to town. I started sketching them. First, what I do is I sketch them with just like a black line. And then I've been going through and actually making more finished sketches in color to match the colors of the actual fabric that I'm going to be using for these patches. So it's a black jacket. I'm using only black, green, and purple fabric. So it's going to be this really unified thing visually. So first I go through and I make the sketches this way, and then I go through and I color them so that we get a better idea of what the finished patch is actually going to look like. I do each of the sketches for the different patches on a separate sheet of paper, obviously, so I can move them around and arrange them in different places as I'm doing it. And as I go through each of these phases, like I said, I shoot pictures and I send them back to the customer so that they can say, oh, I don't like that, or I do like that, or oh my God, that's amazing. And it's usually, oh my God, that's amazing, because that's, again, why the person hired me, is because they want what it is I'm dishing out. So we've got some fortune telling cards, obviously a book of magic, a familiar. This is actually kind of a portrait of my client's kitty, who unfortunately just passed away a few months ago. So it's a little bit of a memorial thing, as well as just being very cute. Broom, wand, hand, palmistry hand for fortune telling, a magic cauldron, and then obviously moon and a star up at the top. So that's where I am with the sketches for this one. And then the next step for these is actually, I use a fusible webbing product, and I go through and make all the shapes for the little applique on the fusible web, and then fuse it to the fabric. So I'm going to cut these out next, and then stack them up and iron them down to make the patch. So you can see that's the piece of that, right? I'll stack them all up and iron them down. And then the last step is sewing all the detail line work onto the patch. And then once I've made each of these patches on a separate piece of fabric, I will attach them to the jacket. So that's my custom work process. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. And hopefully, if you have been thinking about getting a piece of custom artwork from an artist whose work you enjoy, you will feel a little bit more confident about approaching them now with some of my handy tips and tricks. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments section below, and I will be back in a few more days with the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. Thanks for watching.